Relationships aren't always sunshine and rainbows. Just like in nature, you can't have rainbows without a little rain.
Journey with us
Shani Goodson
and Dr. Sundiata as we share stories and insights about our thriving, unconventional love life and our unique take on relationships and consensual non-monogamy. What's up, everybody?
Hey.
We're here.
Here.
First episode of SunShan and Rainbows.
Sun and Shan. You get it? SunShan, sunshine.
Yeah. Hopefully our smiles, for those of you who are watching the video, resemble a little sunshine for you today. But yeah, this is episode 1, where we're going to introduce you all to what this podcast is going to be all about. And for those of you who've been following us on Substack, you know, we've been publishing written content for a couple of months now. And now we're about to share some audio content as well
and video.
Well, yeah, audio and video. That's going to just allow you all to, get into our brains a little bit deeper on a very specific topic, which is only one of the topics that we write about. But yeah, I'm excited.
We're not just publications, we're media, all the media, not just the written media. So we want to give y'all a little audio visual media as well.
Yes. Sustainable Solutions Media. So in this episode, we're going to, again, tell you a little bit about, who we are and why we're doing this show. So to start, a little bit, let's just share a little bit about our background.
Yeah, tell us where you're from. I know you love to rep it. Let us know.
Okay, cool. So you want me to go first?
Yeah.
No doubt. I'm from Philly, West Philly to be exact. And I know for a lot of y'all are already playing the song in your head. I know West Philadelphia, born and raised, is going through your brain, right? But yeah, I get that every time when I tell people I'm from West Philly. But that's where I was born and raised, literally around the corner from Will Smith, as a side note. But for me, I guess the context that's needed here for where we're going with this show, in terms of my upbringing, I was raised by primarily by my mother, and my dad was in our lives. I have siblings. I have 4 siblings, and my dad was in our lives in certain contexts, but we primarily were raised, by a single mother who was a teacher, and we were raised Christian, and my mom is from Philly. My dad is from Apalachicola, Florida. And so I grew up primarily around my mom's family. And in summers, I would go visit my dad's family in Apalachicola, Florida. So I got, that influence as well, and which was very pivotal, in my upbringing. Let's see, I am the second oldest of all the children. And yeah, anything else you think I should add there?
I don't know. You gotta share what you're comfortable with. What else you want to talk about?
I think that's enough. I'm sure more stuff will come out in the various stories that I'll share here, but I think that gives you a little context about my upbringing. Yeah. So how about you share?
Sure. I'm from Brooklyn. That's another place I likes to rep. From Brooklyn, New York. I grew up with a single mother. My father wasn't really in my life, and it was mostly just me and my mom. Um, Christian, I mean, I guess we went to church, but my mom's not religious. But we did go to church more as like a social activity. I'm not sure how relevant I think that is to like where I am now. I didn't actually go to high school in New York, which is always interesting. I went away to high school in Massachusetts and I feel like that's where like maybe some like conventional things started to not seem so good to me. Like I would say it was my experience at prep school that kind of made me be like, I don't know if this conventional thing is for me, but like what else is there to do? So Yeah, I'll stop there. We'll come back around, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
I
sure
think.
more about both of our upbringings and family life will emerge through the various stories we tell, as well as some of the questions maybe you all may ask us as you get to know us here. So yeah, let's talk about why we're doing this. Why sunshine and rainbows? Why are we talking about consensual non-monogamy in this on this platform here?
Hmm. I think about us talking more about, yeah, we are going to talk about consensual non-monogamy, but I really think we're going to be talking about all kinds of relationships um, in this when we talk about, this, because I think our relationship applies to lots of different types of relationships, and the way we think is really interesting. I feel like I know for me on my social media, people are constantly asking, have you ever thought about making a podcast? I'm curious about this. Like, I'd like to learn more. So that's part of the reason that I'm here. If people are curious, I love to educate. Like, it's just a natural part of who I am. So that's part of why I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I think what is going to make our show unique is that we're talking about relationships primarily from an anti-oppression and liberation lens. And then you also are going to get some insights into how we do consensual non-monogamy with that lens as well. So that's why, I'm here. Is because like when we have conversations, we've been having conversations. Shani and I have been in a relationship for 2 years now, over 2 years now. We've been in a close, personal relationship, and in the consensual non-monogamy context. Um, but it goes beyond that. And if you've been, for those of you who are here through our platform, Sustainable Solutions Media, you know that Shani has a blog where she talks about, relationships in all the different contexts, but and through an unconventional way. But how looking at it in those ways can actually enhance our overall like satisfaction in life. And I'm really excited to really get into those nuances and the ways that we talk about when we're having conversations. And that was really the driving force for me wanting to do this, is because I feel like we have some really interesting conversations,
Yeah.
and it's like let's share those with folks.
Yeah, we do. And I feel like, we always say that change and anti-oppression and liberation starts with ourselves
Mhm.
and our close relationships. And I think that's a big reason why we're here also. We want to bring light, we want to shed light on that. Like this idea that all relationships in the world are based on that. And if we can free up our relationship and experience liberation in our relationship, then that can extend to the world. So hopefully we'll get that message across.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's tell them a little bit about our relationship. And I guess I'll start with saying that, we really are free people. It starts there. Like we're, free, non-monogamous people. So what does that mean if you don't know? We're all raised in the same, society as I'm sure most of you listening or watching this, and where, monogamy is the water we swim in. And it's compulsory, meaning it's the expectation that, we grow up and we seek the one. We go through our whole lives dating, getting to know people, trying to find the one, trying to find that one person who we can partner with to do life with. We can partner with for all of our romantic, all of our sexual, all of our practical day-to-day needs being met with and through that one relationship. That's how we're raised, that's how we're indoctrinated, that's what's the norm in our society. But our relationship is totally different.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, what's different?
Well, I guess for one, we both identify as non-monogamous first, but then also polyamorous. And polyamorous, with the true definition of that, which is many loves, having the capacity to love more than one person. I think everyone listening would be like, well, we all have the capacity to love more than one person. But in the context of polyamory, really what we're talking about is having the capacity to love and receive love romantically, and share intimacy with more than one person, whether that be, it doesn't necessarily mean sexual intimacy, but relational intimacy and closeness and love and romance with more than one person.
Yeah, when I first met Sundiata, he already had romantic relationships that were in his life that fulfilled roles, that he saw them X amount of times, etc. They had a level of frequency and proximity. And just because he met me didn't mean that those relationships had to end. That's like, to me, that's like the simplest way of looking at it. I've actually kind of been struggling with the label of like polyamorous recently, just because it's just so specific. And I feel like when you say it, people get these, you know how I feel about labels, and y'all will find out. But it's like when you use that term, people get these pictures in their mind that I don't necessarily think align with what I necessarily believe in. So yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Well,
and we'll get into all of that, like, because this is about our relationship philosophy and how we practice and how we put these things into practice. So I think
yeah.
that will come out as we talk.
Yeah. And one of the things I noticed is that, within the last, I would say, 5 years or so, polyamory has been, talked about more so in the mainstream. It's not such a foreign term as it was to me when I first discovered it. I would say about 2010, 10-ish, 2011. Um, and but in the mainstream, you don't see, I haven't seen polyamory talked about in the ways that Shani and I practice it within our relationship and with the other people that we have relationships with. And I think that's what's also going to be unique about this show.
It's definitely not triads. A lot of times you hear about polyamory and you think, oh, y'all are a couple, you're looking for a third.
Third woman, to be
Oh
specific.
yeah, and the third has to be a bisexual woman.
Mhm.
But we throw it like that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And it's important, I think. Every time you see it in the mainstream, if you've ever watched like TLC and seen like those types of shows, it's always about thruples, right? It's always that's what people think of when they think of like polyamory. That's not what we do here, like
Mhm.
at
And
all.
actually, that's not what most people do.
Exactly.
Like 90% of the people that
Well,
I'm in community or
oh,
see,
okay, yeah, yeah,
um, you know,
yeah.
in the polyamory spaces that we operate in,
Yes,
they don't have triads. They're not in like these closed triad dynamics.
or even open ones.
Yeah, it's hard to accomplish. But we'll go deeper into those
Yeah,
things.
that'll probably be a show. Actually, we're about to put that on the list. Like,
Right.
why you ain't never gonna find your third? Put that on the
That would be a
list,
good one to talk about
right?
the article.
Writing it down.
So, but yeah, so I'll say that there's this niche space within non-monogamy and polyamory called relationship anarchy that really, really resonates with me, and I think with you as well. And we'll have a portion of the show where we talk about different terms in detail. I'm not going to get too much in detail about relationship anarchy, but I will say the basis of it is that you know I don't value romantic relationships above all other types of relationships. Like for me, relationship anarchy simply means that I value and treasure all my relationships for what they bring and what I can add, and vice versa. Um, the same, meaning like, someone who's a romantic partner or a life partner isn't more important than my relationship with my family members, with my siblings, with my mother, my father, or my children, or my homies. Like I value all relationships the same, and then they're just different for different reasons. So that's one element of relationship anarchy that resonates with me. Can you say a little bit more about that, about what resonates with you?
I think for me, it's more about seeing relationships on a spectrum, more so than I think about like importance. I think for a lot of people, that's the way they think of it because a lot of people kind of put romance above other relationships, but that's not even like on my map. Um, Yeah, it's more about seeing relationships on a spectrum. I really don't subscribe to the binary, any type of like binary approaches to relationships. Like something can be somewhat romantic, or I can have a friendship that does include sex. Um, so it's the idea that I'm not going to take relationships and put them,
In a
in a
box.
right in a conscripted, like this is what we have to do in this relationship and this is all we do in this relationship. So,
Yeah.
and that goes for this relationship too, which I would probably say is my highest frequency, highest like of my relationships, I probably spend the most time with Sunjata. However, it's still on a spectrum. I still don't think of him as like the end all be all. I still don't think of him as like the one. He's definitely the one in a lot of ways, like in my heart, in a lot of ways, he's like the one, and he occupies a special place in my heart, but not the only place in my heart.
Yeah. 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 Also, for me, relationship anarchy means like I don't need to be on the spectrum. I'm sorry, on the escalator, on the relationship
That
escalator.
part.
In conventional monogamy and compulsory monogamy, it's like this we call relationship escalator, whereas you meet someone, you start dating that person, and things continue to move along the line where eventually you may start having sex. And then maybe, you give each other a title of boyfriend, girlfriend, and then you might move in with one another, and then you get engaged, and then you get married, and then you get a house and children, and like it's that escalator. Whereas within relationship anarchy context, there is no escalator. It's like I get to know people and see what organically emerges in terms of the best ways that we can add value to each other's lives. And there is no end goal. And there also isn't like success means forever. It's like we can transition in
Right.
and out of.
You don't have to only go up. Like when you're on the relationship escalator, we were just talking about this yesterday, you can either go up or you can get off a lot of the times. Because if you decide you don't want to go to the next stage of the relationship, you can't go back. For a lot of people who subscribe to like monogamy, you can't go back. Y'all just completely get off and break up. And that's not this. I think that's something that's really special about our relationship too. Is we're constantly talking about it. We're constantly evaluating how much time we want to spend together. It would never be a surprise that the one of us decides that we want to change the nature of our relationship. We will have been talking about that, and we have the ability to move in different directions as opposed to just getting off the escalator. I think we have more of an ability of saying, "Hey, this was working, but maybe we want to go back to this and still
Yeah.
maintain love."
Yeah, and within that, and with all these experiences that we've both had, I remember, well, I've come up with like a relationship philosophy, and Shani's written about it. I talk about it a lot, never publicly though, and that's something that we'll talk about here on the show. But there's this relationship philosophy that I have, that I call my theory of sustainable relationships, and it's an idea similar to what we've already been talking about, but this is idea that I call them five buckets, right? Where, and help me out with this, but the relationship can be in either platonic, or let's say this, you and I, or me and someone can like organically develop a relationship within one of these five buckets,
We're gonna
or
have an episode about the buckets, by the
yeah,
way, so don't worry.
or multiple buckets. It could be one or more, but typically it's like familial, platonic, intellectual,
Sexual attraction.
sexual, or then attraction, and then some of those add up together equal romance. Um, but like different people in our lives fill those buckets in different ways, and vice versa. And there's this whole philosophy that I talk about around that, that I believe if we opened our minds to the expansiveness of how we can connect with people, and don't limit, or have this pre-prescribed idea of what boxes people should go in, that we could truly, create sustainable relationships that, when I mean sustainable, meaning relationships that last, long,
And
and
are resilient.
in our resilient. And within that, we talk about different alignments, within those buckets. Like, Shani and I may have a high alignment on our intellectual connection, based on our values and the ways that we think, and in our interests, etc. Or we may have a lower alignment, or someone else and I may have a lower alignment on intellect, but we have a high alignment in our like platonic connection or our familial connection, because we may both, see when we parent similarly, or things like that. So, again, we'll go into that as well. But it's a really interesting and unique way to approach relationships, and one that I think has a lot of value.
Yeah, I would say one of the things that we often say is that our relationship is based on alignment. And I said that, this is probably the highest frequency relationship I have. That's because there's a lot of alignment there. And so it's easy to spend time in this relationship because
Yeah.
the alignment is there. And I mean, like so many little things on all the buckets he was just talking about. It feels high with Sundiata for me. And then just like other little nuanced areas where we just click. I think we have more less of a lot of times when people are looking for the one, they're looking for that person to like complete them. And I don't think that's what is going on here. We're more like complement more so than complete. And that's kind of why I think we can have multiple relationships also because you can have multiple compliments,
Mhm.
in different ways and areas of your life, etc.
Yeah,
So
and it also feels really liberating because it emerged. The way our relationship emerged, it was never forced. We just got to know each other, and we saw within those buckets like where high alignments were over time, and it was really special to experience, but also really liberating in knowing that we didn't need all of those things to align at a high level for us to have a meaningful relationship. And not just with she and I, but also within our other relationships as well. So I think another unique thing about our relationship that we're going to talk about that I know has added a lot of value, and I believe it'll have value for our listeners as well, is how we're proactive in terms of how we intentionally communicate and how we intentionally resolve conflict. So that's something you all can look forward to as well.
yeah, I hope you'll take some tips from us in the way that we just talk about everything. Like I said, nothing is a surprise.
Mhm.
I don't think it would ever be like rant out of the blue. Hey, we need to have a conversation about transitioning. Like it will have already come up because we have time on the calendar. So we'll get into that and other things. Uh, it just it goes to it speaks to the magic, I
Yeah.
think. It speaks to the magic of how how our relationship unfolded, just the way that, Sunjata said it. It was magical. We'll talk to y'all about that in an episode also.
Yeah, but and more and just in terms of like the intro to our relationship, I think it's worth highlighting that it is magical. It is magical. Just to stay there just a little bit longer because Shani and I we have this unique thing where we think we'll be thinking something and the other one will say it immediately, and we noticed that emerged in our relationship literally from the first phone conversation we ever had. It started happening where I would be saying something and she was like, "I was just about to say that," or "I was thinking that." And vice versa. And it was like it felt like so much magic. And we're just, I'm grateful for that. And I'm really excited to like share some of those little nuanced magical things that happen in our relationship with you all as well. So but in terms of like some of the framework of the show and some of the unique things that we're going to be doing, let's close it out with just sharing with them like what they can expect, going forward.
Yeah, there'll be some stories, probably more from Sunjata than me.
Yes, the stories like breakup stories, transitions.
Yeah, let's call them transition stories.
Yeah.
We try not to use the word breakup. Let's call it transition stories. We could talk a little bit about some fun things too.
Mhm.
Although I feel like the fun things might be like after dark. That
Yeah.
might have to be like a after the sunshine and rainbows after dark
You
section.
know what? There might be some after dark shows or like some
So like,
disclaimers.
yeah.
Parents, if you're listening around children, put the kids to bed before listening to this episode. We may release it at like midnight or late night and then delete it the next morning type episodes. If y'all want that. If y'all want that.
Oh my gosh, delete it the next morning. It's like a podcast story. That would be so fun.
That
Okay,
might that
let
might have to
the
happen, especially if y'all want that, because at the end of the day, like there's a lot of fun experiences that are adult, or call them X-rated things that I guess some things are possible within a monogamous context, but some that aren't.
yeah,
They
like
wouldn't even be possible in a monogamous context that I think would be interesting for those who may be interested in that. So
I
yeah,
think
drop us
this
a
is
line
like
if you're interested in that.
one of our alignments is that like even though a lot of times people think of non-monogamy very sexually, and a lot of times people try to say it's not about sex, which it's not. But we don't like downplay the importance of sex and physical connection
Yeah.
in our connections. Like we're not you'll learn more
Yeah,
about that.
because
Because
and also to be
that's
cool.
also part of the liberation.
Yeah, and it's also cool to talk about like the differences because there are some people within our spaces that are asexual, that are demisexual,
Hmm.
where sex they're polyamorous, they're non-monogamous, but sex isn't a part of the draw for them. It's not a part of their relationship, but the relationships that they cultivate. But then there are people who are, sexual, and there's different terms, megasexual, hypersexual, all these different things. And there's like a spectrum for all these things. And we can talk about, those things and where we land on that spectrum.
Yeah.
And that might be interesting for some people. And you may learn some things about yourself through how we experience it. So
Well,
yeah, we're going to talk about all those type of things.
yeah, relationship philosophies. We'll talk about, some tools for conflict resolution and proactive communication.
Hmm.
We're definitely going to give all kinds of reflections. And I love the idea of like taking questions and show ideas from y'all. So definitely let us know what you want to see. And we want to teach you all the vocabulary because that's something I hear all the time. People are like, oh, there's too many words. And how am I supposed to keep track and know all of these things? Well, we're here to help with you with that as well. So education, entertainment, edutainment, that's kind of what we're going for here.
Yeah, yeah. And hopefully you all will enjoy it. So yeah, that's it for now.
Yep.
Yeah, so we hope that you all will be joining us. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you want to hear based on some of the things we teased, and we'll see you all in the next episode.
Bye, y'all. See you next time.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Sunshine and Rainbows.
If you enjoyed the show, please show your support by liking, commenting, and sharing this episode.
Please also subscribe to our media platform, Sustainable Solutions Media, and follow us on Instagram at Sustainable Solutions Media.